Ladies and gentlemen, the God Mode Warrior build was probably one of the best builds I ever made, but some people said it had too less damage. And I know you like more damage, and today I will give you a lot more damage. What do we get when we mix the Bighorn bow glitch and the RS Madness glitch and 100% melee resistance? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the God Mode Assassin build 2020. My name is T7PDM, let's check out this build. With this build you will be completely invincible to all melee attacks, which means you can dominate the whole battlefield using RS Madness, using charged heavy attacks, using Hero Strike, using all the good assassin stuff here. You will deal up to 8 million damage as an assassin, hunter and warrior with a single build. And don't be afraid, you don't have to play with spares, you can use any weapon type you want. And now let's check out the damage values for this build. This build is really well optimized and fine-tuned, you won't waste any damage, you will deal exactly the amount needed to overrun any mercenary or nightmare with any kind of assassination, with the normal assassination, rush assassination or anything you want. The RS Madness activation damage will be up to 8.4 million damage, and when you make a perfect hit with the normal attacks it is up to 3 million damage. And when you want to use hero strikes here in an animation cancel on the staircase, you can deal up to 6 million damage in a single hit. The normal light attack will be still insanely strong with 1.1 million damage, or the heavy attack with 1.6 million damage, almost 1.7. And not to forget the charged heavy attack, which is really cool when you use spares, it is up to 3.3 million damage. Then we have our hunter abilities with multi-shot up to 3.5 million damage, then the predator shot which deals up to 8 million damage to a single target, and not to forget the devastating shot, when fully charged you can deal up to 6 million damage to a single target. All these shots were done during the day, so you will even be able to get more damage when you do it overnight. Ghost arrows will also hit really hard with 3.8 million damage. Make sure that you are always in the 6th sense period, the 8 seconds when your hunter damage is doubled, and make sure you use elemental arrows, in this case fire arrows, that amplifies your damage when you have a lot of fire percentage. So how the hell did I do that? We have 153,000 warrior damage, 591,000 assassin damage and a little bit of hunter damage, which I don't care about because when we use the Bighorn bow glitch we will get the same warrior damage as our hunter damage. This is not the result of many mastery points, but by picking the correct gear with the correct engravings. I will show to you a variant that only uses very little amount of points and you can still deal the same amount of damage that I have shown to you. To understand how your damage can be that high, I will show you the engraving ranking for this build. To increase your assassin damage, the best engraving you can use is 100% critical damage at full health. That will simply add another 592,000 assassin damage to your assassin damage output. Of course, to make critical damage viable, you have to be at 100% critical chance so that your critical damage multiplier is always applied. The next one would be 50% crit damage, that would add half of 592,000 assassin damage to your output, and then comes 20% assassin damage, 166,000, and 10% all damage, that would add 83,000 assassin damage. So when you want to increase your assassin damage, just increase your critical damage and your assassin damage base, that's everything you need to care about. For warrior this is a lot more complex, but it also starts with 100% crit damage at full health. That would give you 153,000 warrior damage, so another 100% of 153,000. But the next best would be 30% damage with spares, in this case because we use spares, otherwise it would be the weapon type of your choice. That would add 141,000 warrior damage because your weapon damage acts like a multiplier to your warrior damage. So in this case, in this build, it is almost as strong as 100% critical damage and a lot stronger than 50% crit damage. It is the biggest damage driver for your warrior damage next to critical damage. The different warrior damage engravings would give us 60,000 damage and 50,000 damage. Fire damage is not multiplied by your weapon damage, so even if fire damage has a lot higher percentage value, it is weaker than 20% warrior damage. And when we use all damage, we get 25,000 additional warrior damage from it. This list for warrior also applies for your hunter damage because when we use the Bighorn bow, then the warrior damage replaces your hunter damage. Normally hunter damage would have a different ranking where fire or elemental would be ranked a lot higher, but when we use the Bighorn bow we don't need any hunter engravings, we use the same warrior engravings for it. If you want to learn more about the calculations, then check out the 3 legendary builds. I've explained the detailed calculation for each playstyle in each of the videos. And the calculations I used for this build can be found in the description of this video. The first weapon I used here is the Isoforged Assassin Spear. That weapon can be acquired in the 3rd episode of the Atlantis DLC in the Atlantis Weapon Forge. Then you have select Assassin type for your spear and it will have Assassin Damage, damages spears, and convert 50% Assassin Damage bonus to all damage on it. And then I engraved it with another 50% critical damage. If you don't have the Isoforged Assassin Spear or you choose Hunter or Warrior for your spear, then you could use the Falx of Olympus as a replacement. So don't worry, you can still make this build. And if you don't want to play with spears, as I said at the beginning, you can also use any other weapon type. The only reason I used spears is because of the Spartan Javelin. The Spartan Javelin is the only melee weapon in the game that has 30% melee resistance, and we need it in this build to achieve 100% melee resistance. The Spartan Javelin has Assassin Damage, damages spears, melee resistance, and we engrave armor penetration on it. The Spartan Javelin can only be found during the Mykonos quest line, complete all the Taletas quests and kill all the Athenian commanders. The last one on Delos will drop the Spartan Javelin. It is not possible to obtain another Spartan Javelin from blacksmith or from looting. All other weapons will never have 30% melee resistance on it. You can also check out the unique items part 1 and 2 guides, these are linked on the channel homepage, then you will not miss any of the unique items again. The blue item here is the Bighorn bow. This is a bugged item. It uses 6495 DPS and puts it on your left melee weapon. So when using this bow, we amplify our left melee weapon by around a factor of 1.6. So whatever damage you have on your left melee weapon, it is amplified by a factor of 1.6 when you use the Bighorn bow. You can directly see the effect here with 153,000 on your left melee weapon and 91,000 on the right melee weapon. Both weapons are spares, so both should have the same damage value, but the Bighorn bow amplifies the left one by a factor of 1.6. And I engraved on the Bighorn bow the 100% damage but health cap to 25%. If you don't want to play with the health cap, of course, then you can use another engraving like 30% all damage, but then you will probably not be able to overrun mercenaries on Nightmare anymore. And it really doesn't hurt to play with the health cap here because we have 100% melee resistance, so most attacks in the game are melee attacks anyway. You will be literally invincible except for elemental or range attacks, so you really don't have to fear the health cap here when you use 100% melee resistance. Then for the helmet, we use the same helmet than in the Best Assassin build 2020, so you can probably use a couple of items from the 2020 Assassin build and put it here in the 2020 God Mode build. Our headgear has Assassin Damage, 50% critical damage, 20% crit chance while full health, and I engraved another 20% Assassin Damage. You can do that when you have maxed out your Assassin Damage to 20%, then you can engrave it on the last position again, as long as it is not on the 2nd or 3rd one. For our bracers, we use the Stolen Iso bracers with Assassin Damage, 10% crit chance, 20% crit chance while full health, and we engrave it with melee resistance. The Stolen Iso bracers are the only bracers in the game which have additional 20% crit chance while full health on it. Normally you cannot obtain any bracers from looting or blacksmiths that have this engraving. You can get these bracers from the Atlantis episode 3 in the Doma of Meneseas. You actually can't miss this item because it is connected to a story quest. So when you go there, then make sure you don't dismantle the Stolen Iso bracers. That is a really powerful unique item. Then for our belt we use the Persian Warrior's Waistband. It has Assassin Damage, 50% critical damage, 30% melee resistance, and we engrave it with another 100% critical damage while full health. That is also a unique item. It is the only belt in the game with 50% crit damage. Normally you can only engrave 100% crit damage while full health on belts, but with this belt you can have it both on the belt. It can be found on the island of Salamis in the ruined sanctuary of Ajax. There are 2 chests in the ruined sanctuary, and the smaller chest on the side will drop the Persian Warrior's Waistband. It is a fixed roll, it will always be in that chest. On the torso we have then Assassin Damage, 10% all damage, 50% crit damage, and we engrave another 20% Assassin Damage. So you can use the same torso as in the Best 2020 Assassin build. And on the boots we have also Assassin Damage, 20% critical chance while full health and 100% critical damage while full health. Also similar to the Best 2020 Assassin build, but this time we engrave 30% damage with spares on it. That gives us the summarized stats of around 304% warrior damage, 379 assassin damage and 307 hunter damage. Then we have 120% damage with spares, really good. We only miss 120% engraving from the boots, but then there is 100% critical damage, is a lot better than 20% in fact. Then we have 100% critical chance while full health and 575% critical damage while full health. That's exact the number you have to have when you still want to be able to overrun mercenaries. With 590,000 assassin damage, you cannot go any lower than 575%. Then we also have 60% fire damage, mostly to amplify our arrow damage, and we have 100% melee resistance. From all the gear we have already 90%, and then we will use 10 points on melee resistance in the mastery to get to 100%. When you don't have the Assassin Forged ISO spare, then you can use the Falx of Olympus as a replacement. The Falx of Olympus has 25% assassin damage, 40% adrenaline per crit, and it already has the 100% damage but health capped to 25% engraved on it. Then you can engrave 30% damage with spares on it. On the Spartan Javelin, you should then engrave 50% critical damage, because this critical damage is needed to get 575% critical damage. When you would engrave only the armor penetration, then you would not be able to overrun mercenaries. Of course, you can choose to just go with the armor penetration, that would greatly increase your warrior damage and your arrow damage, but when you want to overrun mercenaries, then you should stick with the 50% critical damage engraving on the Spartan Javelin. On the Bighorn bow, then you have to place the convert 50% assassin damage to all damage, so that we turn around these two legendary engravings from the spare to the bow. And if you don't want to use spares as your primary weapon, that's really no problem, because the only thing you have to do is exchange your left weapon with another weapon type of your choice, and then engrave another 30% damage with your preferred weapon type, either on the last spot of the headgear, on the last spot of the torso, or on the last spot of the boots. So that's all possible, because on the last positions of all these three items is always 20% assassin damage. So no matter what weapon you want to play with, you can just engrave the damage with that weapon type additionally on the head, on the torso, or on the boots. When you then add another 30% with that weapon type in the masteries, you will be at 90% damage with any weapon type of your choice. For the Assassin God mode, you only need 160 ability points, and I will show you how to spend them. First of all, go to the Hunter tree and use Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense is doubling your Hunter damage, but it also slows down time so that you can overrun mercs even in a frontal attack. You should put 2 points into Arrow Master so that you have either fire or poison arrows unlocked for you. Of course, you can also use poison arrows in this build. I would recommend to go for a devastating shot here so that you have at least one range attack that is really powerful. Archery Master refills your first adrenaline segment, gives you a lot of headshot damage. Charged heavy attack is really useful here when we have spares, but also when you use swords or other kind of weapons. It is really powerful, deals 300% instead of the indicated 150%. Then of course the mandatory perks here are Weapons Master, 40% warrior damage, 10% critical chance. Then also Gear Master for the resistance and the additional armor. We spend 1 point here on flaming attack so that we unlock Fire Mastery, which gives us 40% additional fire damage. Then you can go for overpower attacks, either 1 point or 3 points, you can use them, or you can use only 1 point to unlock Ares Madness. Ares Madness is the enhanced version of Battle Cry of Ares, so make sure to enhance this ability to become Ares Madness instead of Battle Cry. That will give you a lot of damage when activating Ares Madness, up to 8 million damage in this build. Then you should of course use Second Wind, the must-have ability, refills your health, you should use it in all of your builds. Then in the Assassin tree we go for Shadow Assassin, 40% additional assassin damage, 50% crit damage. For Rush Assassination, maybe even 1 or 2 points would be sufficient to kill all the mercenaries. Then Hero Strike, deal up to 6 million damage, and of course Stealth Master to increase our out of combat damage. On my melee wheel I placed Second Wind, Ares Madness, Hero Strike and Rush Assassination. Then we will quickly check out the mastery points here. I placed 12 points on damage of spares. Of course, if you picked a different weapon type, then you have to spend these 12 points on your weapon type. Then 12 points on critical chance and another 12 points here on critical damage. The base variant will only have 98% critical chance, but that's still enough. Of course, if you have more points, then max out the critical chance. I will also show you my full point distribution right after this. In the warrior tab, I spent 12 points on warrior damage and 10 points on melee resistance to become 100% invincible to all melee attacks. Any other point here on melee resistance would be a waste. Then on the Assassin tab, 15 points on assassin damage, 15 points on critical chance while full health, also 15 on critical damage while full health, and another 12 points on damage while full health. That's it for the base variant for ability points. And now I will show you my full point distribution here. I used around 450 points. The abilities are mainly unchanged. Everything I did here was only adding more hunter abilities like Predator Shot, Multi-Shot and Ghost Arrows. In the masteries I maxed out damage with bears, crit chance, crit damage, headshot, and I invested a couple of points on damage with bow charge shot, then a couple of points on adrenaline for headshot kill, warrior damage maxed, then 10 points on melee resistance stays the same, but fire damage, armor penetration. Then in the assassin tab we go for damage when time is slowed down, max it out, max assassin damage, maximum crit chance, crit damage, and also damage while full health. 12 points each on the adrenaline stuff, damage on elites and bosses, the cooldown duration, and we even amplify our assassin abilities and hero strike. This is my new favorite build. I use it with swords and I play with it daily. It is really awesome. I hope you will enjoy it. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and if you have any questions, then just join the Discord server and we will help you out.